idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Bias presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We let Al do it on his own last week, and we lost all of our viewers and listeners. Thanks, everyone. So for the two of you who are still here, we have our Week 15 Round 1 of the playoff recap. Al, what do you have to say for yourself after that interesting performance last week?
Worst show ever.
I enjoyed it. I got to be honest. It was fascinating to listen and to have no idea what was coming next.
Well, that's great because I didn't know what was coming next either.
We're going to get back into our normal swing of things. So what normally comes next after the intros, we discuss either injuries or trades or waivers. Where would you like to start this week?
Oh, waivers for sure.
Waivers for sure. All right. The waivers sucked. Where would you like to go next?
Fine. Let's do injuries.
Injuries. All right.
Badness.
Unfortunately, a pretty rough injury week in the NFL, which we've managed to avoid too many of these this year, but the ones that have been bad have been real bad, I think.
Yeah, it's been a pretty rough year for injuries, specifically at the wide receiver position. It seems to be just taking hit after hit all season long. The zero RB drafters were not having a good season this year.
No, the production at the wide receiver position is down across the board, which I don't know, I guess had to come at some point. It was just going up and up and up every year. Eventually that bubble's going to burst, and I guess it did this year. But since you mentioned it, let's start at the wide receiver position. Not a ton of injuries there, but most notably your team, Waddle, has an MCL sprain.
Jalen Waddle, he's always hurt.
Yeah.
He's hurt every game. It looks like he's out for the season. I don't know how many times I've seen him go down and I think, well, that's it. His season's over. Only for him to limp back onto the field and keep playing. This week he did not limp back on the field though.
No. So MCL sprain, I assume they're going to do more imaging and update us when they know more, but the Dolphins aren't doing anything this year anyway. So you can't really think they're going to rush him back.
They're not mathematically eliminated yet, but they could be as soon as this week.
Yeah, they're not. Even if they somehow snuck into the playoffs, they have to know they're not doing anything. Oh, yeah. All these teams are delusional. I say they have to know. They don't know. They're all delusional. They all think that they are just one play away from everything.
Yeah, their season, much like mine, is all but over.
Well, yours is over now, but let's not step on the matchups till we get there.
Well, I could have used more than 0 points this week from Jalen Waddle.
I was going to say, if Waddle had made your lineup, then it probably wouldn't be over.
If he hadn't scored 0 points.
Other wide receiver injuries. Alec Pierce got a concussion, had 4 targets before that, didn't come down with any of them.
That's because Anthony Richardson was throwing him the targets.
I think I looked at one point, Richardson was like 6 of 18.
That is all too common this season from Anthony Richardson.
My favorite was when they tried the trick play where they passed it and then passed it back to Richardson and planned to have him throw. It was like, they have enough trouble completing one pass. Your plan here was to complete 3 passes?
I mean, Mitchell completed it. He just completed it to a defender.
Oh, my God. Yeah, but their plan was to throw it again after that. So their plan was to catch that one that the defender intercepted. Actually, I think it goes in as a fumble because that one was allowed.
Backwards. Yeah, it was a backwards pass.
For all intents and purposes, it was an interception, even if it wasn't technically an interception.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that play call. But, that basically ended the Colts season.
My favorite commentary that I heard on that one was Danny Kelly of The Ringer saying they were out here running parlays on their passing plays. 3-leg parlay. Man. I don't know. Pierce concussion, copy paste. We don't know. We hope he's better soon. Well, we'll see what happens. He'll progress through the protocol and hopefully he's back.
Yep.
On the other side of your matchup, though, Xavier Legette also got injured, hurt his groin apparently. I didn't see much news about this. Do you have any update?
Nope, left the game, did not return. I mean, it's not easy to play with a strained groin. You kind of need that for lateral movements like cutting.
Yeah.
So I would say he's probably going to be highly questionable. He's also due for wrist surgery in the offseason. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
injuries are piling him up. They may just shut him down.
Yeah, their season is done as well. Like there's no chance. They are mathematically eliminated, unlike the Dolphins.
But yeah, somehow Flea continues to drag her team to the next round despite losing Pierce and Leggett.
Oh,
Two
it's
more
incredible.
Injuries.
Incredible work.
I don't understand. She just continues to chug along despite mounting injuries.
Yeah. And this is after losing Ingram last week. No, she's that team. They give everyone a little history lesson. The first time I ever talked to you about fantasy was when you had just renamed your redraft team like a team infirmary ward. This was circa 2005.
That was a cursed team.
Yeah. So
I think the first 9 or 10 rounds of players that I took all ended on IR.
Yeah.
It's just nobody. But somehow she keeps finding ways to plug holes and add players.
Yeah.
I mean,
you missed the playoffs that year. She's in the semifinals right now.
Yeah, we saw another couple of trades that we'll get to shortly. She just continues to find way to add pieces.
Well, by hook or by crook. All right, let's go. What else do we have for injuries? Unfortunately, we had three We had two fairly significant and Tommy DeVito injuries at the quarterback position. Tommy DeVito got a concussion. Obviously, that's a serious injury, but it's not a big fantasy impact injury.
Tommy Cutlet's slander. I will not stand for that. He is the Giants' best quarterback.
That might be true.
I don't know. Tim Boyle, he showed a spark this week.
That is
earning
the best.
That backup money.
That is the best that Tim Boyle has ever played. I should note the Giants lost by like 20 points. But
Boyle,
that is the best Boyle has ever played. Anyway,
Tim Boyle continuing to collect paychecks in the NFL.
Cash those checks, buddy.
Right?
It's good work if you can get it. I have nothing but respect for that man right now.
Well, he may be the starter this week.
Good for him. Good for him. And also good for the Giants because let's be honest, we're playing for a draft pick at this point.
Yep.
Oh, I just said we because I'm a Giants fan. I listened to what was this? We're recording this on Tuesday night. Last night I was driving home and I was listening to the local broadcast of the Minnesota Vikings. Let me tell you, they refer to every play, every single thing as we. There is no, and the Vikings get the stop. It's, and we get the stop. And like, anytime like somebody, you know, every now and then you'll hear someone refer to themselves as we, or they're on the team, like they're actually contributing or whatever. It was every single member of the broadcast, not just like the play-by-play. It was the color guy. It was the sideline reporter. It was like the guy who comes in and does the out-of-town scoreboard at the
traffic report.
No, everyone was like, and I'm like, what is happening in Minnesota right now? Apparently, these people are all on the team.
But I mean, isn't that what you want from your local
from
radio
a local broadcast? It's absolutely what you want, but it just sounded so strange.
It's a little jarring for a national game.
Well, I have this random app that lets you listen to any radio station. Basically, it's one of those bootleg apps and it's got it all organized by team. So like you could just go to the Vikings and select the Vikings feed. Like I could have listened to the national broadcast of the other game, but I wanted to listen to that game at the time. Had a choice between which local broadcast, and for whatever reason, Minnesota was the one I saw first, so I went with that one.
Well, it sounds like you enjoyed it.
It was great. If I am listening to Minnesota games on the radio in the future, I will absolutely turn on their local broadcast. 10 out of 10. No notes. All right. Other injuries at the quarterback position, as we were discussing. Patrick Mahomes.
Impactful injuries.
Yes. Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain, but he practiced in full today, they said.
Well, all right, that might be a little bit of gamesmanship because the practice was a light walkthrough.
Yeah.
So practicing in full for a light walkthrough is not the same as practicing in full for a normal practice.
He still had to walk, apparently.
Yeah, but he could have been out there in a boot and it would have been full practice.
That's true.
He's got one of those little scooters.
Yeah, so they play on a short week this week and a short week next week. So who the hell knows?
Right, and they're worried about the postseason. They're not worried about the matchup this week as much.
But they probably also want to make sure they keep their bye. They're only, I think, a game up, or I guess they have the tiebreaker, so a game and a half up. They don't want to just give away games, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's also played through high ankle sprains before, but I mean, those were playoff games.
Yeah,
so
well, you don't really have a choice there. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, that offense hasn't been great for fantasy purposes, and for our league, Mahomes is on my roster, and I've been eliminated from the playoffs for months. So, everyone is also of the talking about the narrative where the Chiefs play on Christmas Day, and that game is apparently on Netflix, which is strange in and of itself. But they're like, Netflix is gonna get Mahomes a bionic ankle if they have to. There's no way they're gonna let Carson Wentz play this game that they paid tens of millions of dollars to broadcast.
They paid a lot of money not for Carson Wentz in prime time.
Carson Wentz, former number 2 overall pick. Drafted way higher than Mahomes was.
Super Bowl champion Carson Wentz.
Sure. This is like saying Super Bowl champion was LaShawn McCoy. Yeah, he was on the roster.
He won multiple Super Bowls.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Other injuries at the quarterback position. Geno Smith hurt his knee, left the game, didn't come back.
Oh my God. Anybody else on Mel's quarterback room that got injured this week?
Well, Josh Allen also went for x-rays.
At least he's got Kirk Cousins.
Yep. Kirk Cousins just got benched today. They said Penix is going to be the starter moving forward. Mel, this is not looking great, my friend.
If only someone had a gently used Russell Wilson available.
Oh, God. Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble now. No, it doesn't sound like either Geno or Allen is gonna miss a lot of time. Josh Allen's not missing any time. Like, unless he is physically restrained or like in prison or something, you're not keeping Josh Allen from the field. So
yeah,
I'm worried about that one.
I mean, it seems like it's mostly precautionary. Yeah. And Geno, they said that structurally everything's fine, which means it may just be a pain tolerance thing, which means he's probably going to play because watching Sam Howell was far more painful than whatever injury Geno sustained. And there's no way they're going to roll Sam Howell out in a must-win game.
I was going to say, they're still fighting for a playoff spot here. They need a win. So.
Yeah, if they roll Sam Howell out, they will not be fighting for a playoff spot anymore.
Let's move over to the running back position where there was some real attrition this week. Start at the top here. Montgomery. Dave Montgomery hurt his MCL. He's done for the year.
Yep. Torn MCL.
Brutal.
Yeah, well, the most brutal part is his season-long prop for rushing yards was 775 and a half. And you know how many yards he finished with?
I'm going to guess 775.
Yep.
Oh my God.
So, hope you didn't bet the over on that one.
If you had asked me to guess how many yards he had, I would have guessed more than that. Probably not by a ton, but I would have expected him to be in the 900 range. I don't know why.
He splits a decent amount of the workload.
Yeah, he does, but they've been such a good offense. And like some weeks they're splitting like 40 touches. So, I mean,
yep.
It's not like they're lacking in running back options.
Yep. Yeah, and they already said he's requiring surgery, which means it may be more than just an MCL. Could potentially be a meniscus injury as well.
Hopefully there's no other damage. Good news for him is that he got a contract extension this year, so he's coming back with the team at least.
Yep. Got his money. But yeah, this is, the Lions had a rough week.
The Lions have had a rough year. They have
put half their team on IR this week.
What do they have, like 15 guys from their defense on IR? There's a reason that they've been giving up 40 points a game.
Right. Yeah, I think they have 9 or 10 defensive linemen on IR right now.
Just insane. All right. Other running back injuries. Alvin Kamara hurt his groin. We don't really know anymore, but he left and did not come back.
Right. Similar to Leggett, it's difficult to play through a groin strain because you kind of need those muscles for side-to-side mobility and cutting, which are kind of important.
You said that exact same thing just a few minutes ago.
Kind of important for the running back position. So we'll see. I'm not sure that we're going to see Alvin Kamara out there this week, but you never know. They're not really playing for anything at this point.
No, they're not. We don't even know who's going to be in at quarterback for them or who's going to be in at wide receiver for them. So,
right. Might as well add a question mark at running back too.
Speaking of another guy who got his contract extension, they might just look toward next year and say, we don't need you out here right now.
Yeah. Good chance to get a look at Kendra Miller.
Yeah, who's done pretty well since coming off of that apparently unneeded IR stint.
Since they fired their coach who apparently hated Kendra Miller.
You've heard that, right? Like apparently he didn't actually need to go on IR and they put him on IR anyways.
Yeah, that's sounds like Dennis Allen.
Yep. Well, we won't see Dennis Allen for a while. Probably never see him as a head coach at least.
I would hope not. That's now 2 failed stints.
Yeah. All right. Other running back injuries. Nick Chubb broke his foot. Just tough to see.
Yeah, they're saying he won't require surgery, which is good. But there's just not enough time for him to come back this year, obviously.
No.
So he should be healed up pretty early in the offseason. But again, he's going into unrestricted free agency. So we'll see if he re-ups with the team, maybe a 1-year kind of small guarantee prove it deal. See if he can have a healthy season.
I'm sure he'll find a role somewhere, be it with them or somewhere else. But I think most people would like to see him back there.
Yeah, Stefanski was just gushing about how well respected he was and how important he was to the team. You'd think that they'd find a way to bring him back, even if it's at a reduced role.
Yep. Jaleel McLaughlin hurt his quad. I didn't see this one. What do you know about this?
He hurt his quad and didn't come back. I mean, it kind of narrows down this running back rotation if he misses some time.
Oh, good. From 6 to 5?
Javonte and Stime is the only running backs left in this rotation, but who knows? It's the Broncos. They could sign somebody off the street and make them the starter.
Sure, they will find someone. What's CJ Anderson up to?
Somebody call.
No, Sean Moreno still around.
Leonard Fournette.
At least I was going with old Broncos. Come on.
Latavius Murray. These guys are ready.
TD still in shape?
Yeah, Terrell Davis.
Yeah, all right. Other running back, one more we got to get to. Trey Benson hurt his ankle. This one's a little bit less impactful. He's not a starter there, but
well, it matters more to James Conner's outlook than to Trey Benson's outlook because DeMarcado is already out, and he was the passing down back. So Conner was already taking a heavier workload, and with Benson out, I mean, he's probably going to play 99% of the snaps.
I don't even know who else they have outside of like Dallas.
DJ Dallas. Yeah. I believe DJ Dallas is the only other running back on the roster at the moment.
I'm sure they'll bring someone in, but I'm sure it won't be anybody good. That wraps up the running backs we need to comment on. Only one other player we're going to note here. Zach Ertz got a concussion. It's a concussion. He's in the protocol. We'll see when he comes out of it. Maybe this is a chance for Sinnott to step up.
Yep. Going to see a lot of John Bates and Ben Sinnott.
Yep.
They've already been rotating in quite a bit. So we'll obviously see them even more if Ertz can't go.
All right. That wraps up the injuries that we found. I'm sure we missed something. I'm sure someone will yell at us for it. That's okay. Let's go.
Do people really yell at you for missing injuries?
All the time. No, I don't think anyone has ever said anything.
I got to go through the comments on these videos.
Have we ever gotten a comment on any of these videos?
Yes. I commented on last week's video.
Okay, that
Saying how,
doesn't that
saying how terrible it
absolutely
was.
that absolutely does not count. Wait, what did you comment?
How terrible it was. I think I wrote bring back the real host or something.
Someone's got to usher you along. It was funny. You started off the first like 10 15 seconds were probably our strongest intro ever. And then once you got to the actual like discussing of the injuries, you went monotone for like 2 minutes straight. And I was like, oh my God, is he okay? Right.
It's difficult to do both jobs.
Oh, it is. No, I remember what was it, Halloween last year, that one week where I had to do the matchup section. Like we did the beginning section together and then the
Yep.
matchup section. And I was doing it as though you were still there and responding to me, but you weren't. And I'm sure you edited around that. I never actually went and listened to it, but it was, I was basically having a full on conversation with myself.
No one will ever know.
Well, they know now, unfortunately. All right, so you covered a couple extra trades at least one extra trade last week after our normal time. So we only have 3 trades to discuss this week. Nothing earth-shattering here. No, let's just go in chronological order. There was a trade between Flea and myself where she traded me the injured Evan Ingram and got back in return a 2025 third round pick attached to my roster. That's in this upcoming draft. 2025 third round pick attached to Mel's roster, also in this upcoming draft. And the real prize for her, Daniel Bellinger.
You say not earth shattering, but it definitely made a difference this week in her lineup.
So this is true. Bellinger made her lineup and was the difference between her winning and losing this matchup against your team.
Right. So maybe not earth shattering to you, but certainly to me.
All right, but here's the other thing. Bellinger scored 9.75 points. If someone scoring 9.75 is the difference between you winning and losing, I'm not sure that anything about it could be considered earth-shattering. You didn't get to double digits.
That was more than enough to beat me.
Yep, that it was. So this one's, the same as we've seen. I want to say with every trade Flea and I have made this year, it's an injured player, a team.
Every trade that she's made in general, she just keeps having injuries and just keeps replacing them and keeps chugging along. It's unbelievable.
Well,
She did it again this week.
Yep. So she's, already turned around and used one of those third round picks. We're going to get to that in a second. But it's pretty straightforward. Injured player. Bellinger's, I don't know, second on the depth chart behind Theo Johnson in New York, but Theo Johnson's hurt right now, so Bellinger's getting snaps and targets and catches.
Yep, we've seen him as the lead tight end before. He's been in this role.
Yeah,
so we know he can be productive.
I was going to say his rookie year, he wasn't, great or anything, but he ended up as the tight end 34 that year. Had, I don't know, 30-ish catches, a few hundred yards, mostly over the second half of the season.
Yeah, that's like 1,000 points in our scoring.
Yeah, basically. All right, so straightforward trade. We don't need to spend too much time on it. The next trade between Big and Flinch. Big traded away to Flinch. He traded Aaron Rodgers and Nick Westbrook-Akine. Flinch traded away to Big. He traded Gardner Minshew and a 2026 second round pick attached to Flinch's roster. So Flinch picks up Rodgers and Westbrook-Akine for his stretch run here. And in return, Big gets Gardner Minshew, who is not going to play for the rest of this year, but what he was probably after all along was that extra second round pick.
Yep. Flinch needed a quarterback, got an extra quarterback, and Big needed some flexibility, both in roster spots and draft picks. So he can potentially add something more impactful than Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers hasn't really been seeing his lineup all year, although he definitely would have been in his lineup the last couple of weeks.
The last 2 weeks have been by far the best that Rodgers has played this year. So yep. I guess for Flinch, it's the right timing for sure.
Yeah, we don't often see.
Oh! What do we got? A trade has been completed. You're making trades right now in the middle of our recording. Literally just got this notification. I'm sitting here. You're here talking about, damn it, Aaron Rodgers while you're out here trading players. Was this one that had been sitting out there for a while, or are you actually literally doing this while we were recording?
Multitasking.
This is fantastic. All right. We're interrupting this other one. We're skipping straight to the trade that was just completed.
Trades don't sleep.
All right. So this is a trade between Al and Big. Al apparently doing this while we were recording. You people see how he values your time. All right. Al, you traded away Jeremy McNichols and Brian Robinson.
Potential league winner, Jeremy McNichols.
Apparently. So the Washington running backs. And in return, you got back Nick Chubb and that 2026 second round pick of Flinch's that we were just discussing in the Aaron Rodgers trade. So
Didn't last long on Big's roster.
So for Aaron Rodgers and Nick Westbrook-Akine, Big picked up Gardner Minshew, Jeremy McNichols, and Brian Robinson. And I guess he also traded away Nick Chubb. So talk to me about this one that we just had come across the docket.
Well, I traded for Brian Robinson a week ago.
Yep.
Because I needed a running back, and he was my running back through this week. Unfortunately, it was not enough to get me to the next round of the playoffs. So I traded him back to his his former owner. Traded him back home, back to Big. Picked up another pick. Picked up another running back, Nick Chubb, who's obviously not going to help Big the rest of this season with a broken foot, but potentially gives me some depth for next year.
This is fascinating to me that basically he was on your roster for 5 days. And Nick Chubb was in both of these trades. So you traded away Chubb and a third to get Robinson. And then you traded Robinson away for Chubb in a second. Now, obviously, in the interim, Nick Chubb got hurt. So, right. Like, there is reason between the difference in the picks, but it's just like you rented a player for a week and moved up around in the draft, essentially.
Well,
good for you. I mean, and also, like, good for Big. He gets back his guy. We know he likes Robinson.
Yep. Yeah, he wanted Robinson back. I think he was trying to figure out what was the best thing he could do for that second round pick. And so I made an offer with a package for giving him Robinson back, who I know he likes.
The next question I was going to ask is how long until you trade Nick Chubb back to Big again?
I'm sure that will happen at some point in the offseason.
I'm astounded you think you're going to make it all the way to the offseason.
Well, there's only 2 weeks left, and he's not really contributing with a broken foot. So I assume that one might wait until the offseason. But we'll see.
I have faith.
We'll see.
If he's got IR spots, then you know it's going to happen. If he doesn't have IR spots, well, maybe not. All right, let's go back and wrap up that Rodgers one that we were so rudely interrupted. I say we, as though you weren't the one interrupting.
Well, I'm not the one that hit accept. All right. I just proposed it.
So for Flinch, this gives him some depth. He's got Lamar and Bo Nix. Rodgers gives him a third quarterback. For Big, he's still got 3 quarterbacks because Desmond Ridder is the starter in Las Vegas right now. As bad as Rodgers has been, I still have more confidence that he will put up usable fantasy games than I do that Ridder will do the same, basically.
Yeah, the one thing about Big's team is he can probably go a little shallower at quarterback because he just has so much depth at other positions. He can get away with his second flex not being a quarterback. He really just needs one decent quarterback score in the week to put up a big week. Yeah, it was an interesting move for sure.
And again, knowing Big, he's probably not done making moves. I'm sure he's got another trick up his sleeve here.
I don't know. That's an interesting one to me. I would have had a hard time. We have one other trade to cover. It's between Flea and Al. This is after you were eliminated, after Flea beat you like a drum. kicked your ass this week. You traded away Tim Patrick and Kendrick Bourne, and Flea in return gave you a 2025 third-round pick attached to Mel's roster. So it's likely to be a fairly late one because he's still in the playoffs.
Right. Final four.
Yep. And a 2027 third-round pick attached to Flea's roster, which, as you said to me, is that even a real year?
Are we sure that 2027 is a real year? It doesn't sound real.
I haven't checked my sources on that, but I believe it might be. So you got a couple of third-round picks for a couple of, lower-end wide receivers here. But Tim Patrick has been scoring touchdowns the last couple weeks, and Bourne is probably still the best receiver in New England, not named Pop Douglas.
I think he just might be the best receiver in New England, but that passing game is not great.
No, it's
not. Yeah, Tim Patrick's been playing, heavy snaps. He's seeing more targets than Jameson Williams the last few weeks. So he's become an important part of that offense, and they're probably going to have to throw more with Montgomery out and their defense not able to stop anybody. So, decent buy for a third-round pick, late third or future third.
Yep.
She needed to replace a couple of receivers, losing Pierce and Leggett this week.
Yeah, it makes sense to pick up some extra depth, especially at this stage. The market's fairly tapped out. So any guys with a pulse that are available, they're worth adding.
Yep.
All right. That wraps up trades. For now, unless, you're going to spring another one on me later on. Just, give me a little bit of warning next time.
Okay, I withdrew my other trade offer so I don't interrupt this show.
Thank you. That's all I ask. A little bit of professional courtesy.
I'll repropose them when we're done.
Let's get to the matchups. We had a league median score this week of 212.42. I have no idea how that was calculated.
Why are you... We don't need a league median.
No, I don't. It doesn't matter. It's listed. I'm reading it off for history and posterity, and for Criddle keeping his spreadsheets. Okay.
Does the league median include the toilet bowls?
I assume so because all four of the playoff teams were over that league median, so there's no way it doesn't. But it also doesn't include the two worst teams and the two best teams. So I don't know what to make of this league median thing. But anyway. We only had two matchups that mattered. They were the toilet bowl. I lost to George and Mike. I advanced to the next round. On the other side of the bracket, Criddle lost to JMC. He advances. This week, I face off in the toilet bowl against Benign Rug. And on the other side of things, Criddle is going to demolish Mr. Good News because he put up like 12 points last year. He's trying to trade away more players. So we can already crown Mr. Good News on this one now. All right, let's get to the actual.
Now I have to cut that entire section.
You're leaving that in. All right, we have two matchups. Do you want to do yours first or second?
I don't want to do mine at all.
All right, we're doing it first. All right, one side of the bracket, we had a matchup between Flea and our very own Al. This is as tight as a playoff matchup can get. Flea won this one 219.14 to 218.14. It was exactly a 1 point difference between your two teams. And
it does not feel good to be on the other side of one of these.
Your team,
honest. Feels a lot better when you win a close matchup.
Your team was down quite a bit going into Monday night. And then you ended up with...
I had already given her the congratulations, good luck on the next round, because I was like, there's no way that I'm going to ever score enough points to come back.
I find this fascinating. You got almost 40 combined points from Jefferson and Hawkinson. Yet on the other side of the matchup, she only got an 11.24 from Sam Darnold.
That's
who was obviously the one throwing the passes.
That's kind of what I figured.
Jefferson and Hawkinson.
I said, there's no way that I can get enough points because she's getting the points as well from the quarterback. There's no way unless Darnold gets hurt and Mullins is in there. There's no chance.
It was great to watch because she had Robinson going in the other game and you had those guys go. It was it was fun to watch it like creep back and forth a little bit. It was tough to follow the exact because it's best ball and the matchups don't automatically update because Sleeper likes to drive Mel insane and not allow him to use Taxi Squad and all that stuff. But we don't need to get into that. But I was trying to like do back of the napkin math as we were going, and you were just telling me the whole time, oh, it's not close, not close. So I sort of stopped tracking it. And then afterwards,
I mean, it wasn't close, to be fair. It got close. Very close.
A great matchup to watch as a neutral observer anyways.
Yeah, wonderful. You were hardly neutral, helping my opponent beat me.
Yeah. All right, listen.
This is all your fault. I blame you 100%.
You can
None
blame
of this
me
is
all
on
you
me.
want. Let's discuss her 28 points from Tajay Spears.
Oh, wait, that was from me.
Let's discuss her tight end 1, Travis Kelce.
Oh, that was also from me. That was the same deal. To be fair, at that point in the season, I thought I was not going to make the playoffs. So, whoops.
Oh, man. I don't know if any of the other players that made her lineup were involved. Oh, no, yeah. DeAndre Hopkins. That was our trade.
Romeo Dobbs.
I'm sure there are other ones that. Oh, Romeo Dobbs. That was my trade too. All right, yeah, like half of these players were on my team or your team at one point. I think we trade with Flea a lot. Flea, go win the championship so we can claim like 1/18th credit.
we get like a quarter share or something.
No, we get an invite to the parade.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. So Flea advances to the next round. Because both of us forgot, we had to go and ask if we reseed. Mel told us, yes, we do in fact reseed. So
I was pretty sure we did because I think one year we were supposed to play each other and then we reseeded and didn't play each other and then ended up playing in the third place game or something.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
With the reseed, Flea, who was the number 3 seed, will now next week face off against Mel, who is the 2 seed. You, I guess, get to play against Judd for that 5th, 6th place game.
Why do we do this game?
I don't know. I don't know, bragging rights?
We don't need the toilet bowl. We don't need a 5th place game. We can get rid of all these matchups. There's no reason.
The
Final Four, you have a reason because you're trying to win money.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's no reason for any of the matchups to matter.
I mean, outside of trading away a bunch of players, you have no control over it anyways. This is best ball. You're just going to get your score.
Right.
All right. So let's take a look at some of the big scores in this matchup. You had 43 points from Jared Goff.
Yeah. He threw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns because the defense couldn't stop anyone. They still lost 42.
We said it earlier. There's no one healthy left on the defense. So they're just gonna have to be in shootouts and try and win that way.
And now Montgomery is out for the season, so they can't just pound it. There's going to be a lot of throwing the rest of the season for Detroit, I think.
There will be. Other side of things, Mike Evans continues to just win people championships, I guess, because he put up 40 points again this week.
Yeah, he really doesn't want to lose his 1,000-yard streak.
Can you blame him? It's a pretty cool streak. And I think that matters to the team as well. I don't know that it just matters. I don't necessarily mean the other players on the team. I mean the organization. Yeah. I think the organization cares about that.
Yep. Well, they're certainly going to force feed him targets the rest of the year if he can stay out there.
Yeah. So Evans and Spears were the 2 really big boom scores for Flea. The rest of our lineup, pretty much all double digits outside of Bellinger, who was 9.75 and on the cusp of that. But 219, 218, these are decent scores, but they're not crazy high. So there weren't a lot of giant performances here.
Yeah, there's a lot of unexpected performances. Spears with 28, Ty Johnson with almost 20 points. I mean, Justice Hill with almost 20 points.
Yeah, those were not the running backs you expected to see at the top.
And they all did it receiving.
Robinson and Etienne here, and Taylor, who apparently doesn't feel like scoring touchdowns.
And those 3 did it almost exclusively receiving. They combined for 21 yards rushing between the 3 running backs who scored 70 points.
You add in Gibbs on your side of things. He only had 31 yards, but he had 31 points.
Yep. A lot of receiving back work this week.
I mean, if you're going to invest somewhere in a best ball league, it may as well be with the receiving backs.
Yep. Sometimes a game script can work like this.
All right, so let's move on and take a look at the other playoff matchup. This one not quite as close.
I mean, Judd was close
this
to
will
our
be-
score.
That's true. Judd was only 2 points off of your score.
He just was not close to Flinch's score.
Nope. Lynch decided that he was done screwing around. He put up a 273.61. He beat Judd, who put up a 215.17.
Yeah, this is the Flinch that we saw early in the season when he got off to a really hot start and he looked like the runaway favorite. And he kind of cooled off the back half of the year, but yeah, he came back with a vengeance this week.
Would you people stop making trades in the middle of our recording?
This one
This
wasn't.
one wasn't you. You looked real confused there for a minute. All right. Here we go, I guess.
Another
We have a
trade to break
trade
down.
between Mel and Judd. Judd, who, as we were just discussing, was recently eliminated from the playoffs, and Mel is playing his first playoff game after his bye week. Mel picks up Adam Thielen, Cooper Rush, and Amir Abdullah. This is a heavyweight trade right here. On the other side of things, Judd in return gets Joe Flacco, Zach Moss, Michael Woods, who I'm convinced is just in here to piss Big off, and a 2026 fourth round pick attached to Mel's roster.
What a trade. Blockbuster.
It's a trade.
Well, Mel, we said he needed a quarterback. There we go. Cooper Rush. Problem solved.
I guess who do they play this week?
Does
Take
it
a
matter?
look.
Does it?
Tampa Bay this week, Philadelphia next week.
He's got to make it through this week first. So
Tampa's defense hasn't been anything to write
Yep.
home about, so
it's a good matchup at least.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean he acquired depth. Thielen's been the number one receiver for Carolina. Abdullah is probably the number one running back again for Vegas, unfortunately for them and for anyone who has to watch these games. And Cooper Rush is a starting quarterback.
For now, yeah. I mean,
He didn't really give up much to get these guys, so kind of a no-brainer for his side.
I was gonna say I'm not sure I see a lot of what's in this one for Judd. Going into next year, Flacco and Rush are basically the same thing. They're both going to be backups. So,
Yep.
If you prefer one to the other, by all means. But Moss isn't going to have a job necessarily. Woods, he's done literally nothing as far as I know, right?
He's
Am I
playing a
missing
lot
something?
of He's playing a lot of snaps.
I was going to say the last 3
necessarily
weeks he's had
producing.
77, 88, 100% snap share, but he's had 9, 3, and 3 points in that time on the strength of 11 total targets.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And,
he's like 10 years
maybe-
younger than Adam Thielen, I guess.
maybe if Judd likes Woods or thinks that Moss is going to get another job somewhere.
Yeah, Moss is a good pass protector. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball if you need him to handle a decent workload. He's a useful committee back. But yeah,
Sure, but he's going to be a backup at best. I mean, if he, I don't know. I have a hard time with this one. I think Thielen is probably going to be in the exact same role next year that he is this year, only, probably with another good wide receiver there.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that despite his age, he's probably still the best piece in this trade for next season.
Yeah, most of these guys we're not going to care about by this time
Yeah.
next year.
No, it's not. It's not like Judd's giving up a lot of things here, but it's one I don't understand it. Well,
I'm just mad because I've been trying to get Zach Moss for like 100 years, and he would not trade him to me. Apparently, I needed Amir Abdullah to get it done.
well, now you know for the future.
Right. Let me go trade for Amir Abdullah and trade him back to Judd.
Probably gonna have to wait a week, or at least 2. All right. All right. So that's where we're at. That's a trade.
That's a trade.
I don't like it, but I also don't want to be like overly critical. And also, Judd's got the highest winning percentage in the league since we've been founded. So like I can criticize all I want. That dude can just point to the scoreboard.
He seems to come out on top of pretty much every trade he makes
That's
somehow. So
what I mean. Like I just because I don't see it, that doesn't mean a damn thing.
we were
Who the hell am I?
questioning that Kirk Cousins trade a couple weeks ago. It looks a lot better for Judd now.
Yeah, no, that it certainly does. Read the tea leaves right on that one. All right, so let's get back to that matchup where we were just discussing. Flinch won this one going away. Lamar Jackson continues his absolute monster of a year, 41 points. Devontae Adams, 47 points. Terry McLaurin and Brenton Strange, almost 30 points. Just a monster week across the board. Aaron Rodgers, who we just acquired, 33 points.
Yeah, it's hopefully you save some of these points for next week.
I was gonna say if Flinch has another couple of weeks like that, we're gonna have an exciting semifinal and finals matchup.
Yep.
He's had spike weeks like this earlier in the year. It's been less sustained than some of the other teams. He's been higher highs and lower lows than a lot of the other teams. So
Well, yeah, we just saw him score 130 points 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
So, but he picked the right time to spike. See if he could do it again this week.
And for Judd, it was a bit of a disappointing week. 216 isn't a bad score, but his team has been putting up more than this fairly consistently.
Yeah, he got hit hard by injuries too this year, especially the last couple of weeks. It's just kind of ruined his depth. I mean, you can see Cooper Rush was his quarterback one. Amir Abdullah was his running back one. I mean, St. Brown went crazy, 43 points. But outside of that, he had a lot of holes in this lineup. But what this does mean, the result of these two matchups, we're going to have another first-time champion. There will be no repeat, and we will not have a repeat champion from any of the previous years. So year 4 is going to have our 4th different champion.
Pretty cool. We should mention the previous 3 champions, Mr. Good News, JMC, and your team, the first 3 years.
Yep, and none of us are winning this year because 2 of us didn't make the playoffs, and 1 of us went out in the first round.
All right, so Flinch, who started off as the 5 seed, Judd started off as the 4 seed there. So Flinch moves on. He will play against Big this week, who is the number 1 seed. And this means that Big gets to face Aaron Rodgers just a short time after trading him away.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see how this matchup goes. If Flinch scores like this again, Big's going to have trouble, as good as his team is. 270 points is not easy to overcome.
If any team can do it, we saw multiple 290-point weeks from Big this year. So if we see 270 against 270, I will not be shocked.
No one has the ceiling or the floor that Big has had this year. I mean, we've seen him basically run the table from start to finish.
And by the floor, you don't mean like the low floor. You mean the high floor.
Yes, he's got the highest floor and the highest ceiling.
His floor is higher than my ceiling.
Yeah, he can sleepwalk to 220 points. So.
Yeah. All right, that catches us up on the matchups from last week and taking a quick look ahead at next week. We don't really have any other segments to get to here. We don't have playoff predictor odds anymore. We already know who's in the playoffs. We don't have any previews that we need to get to here. What are we going to do now?
So we're down to the final 4. We're both out, so now we can just both sit back and enjoy the rest of the season and not cry about losing by 1 point.
How do you feel about the failure of your fake rebuild?
Did I fail or succeed?
It's a great question. I don't know. We have to ask Big.
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
All right. Well, we should probably get out of here before these people make any more trades that we have to cover in the middle of our podcast.
Yeah, save some for next week.
You last week you re-recorded extra stuff before you edited to get in extra trades.
Well, there was like 5 more trades that happened.
Yeah.
It was a flurry.
All right.
Yep. Next week we'll be talking about a finals matchup.
I'm thrilled to see who makes it. I don't know whether I'm rooting for Mel to make it and lose a 4th time, or
so we can go
finally win.
Full Buffalo Bills.
Oh man. I kind of want to see it just to see him go insane, but also I feel bad.
Any of these 4 teams would be
all these
a deserved champion.
All these teams have done a lot of work on their roster that has paid off to get them here.
Yep.
And any of them will be deserving of the title. All right, so we'll see what happens this week.
Find out next week
on another exciting episode of all right, speaking of next week, we will catch everybody next week, but until then,
see you in the league chat.